What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS Season 19, Episode 19, The Brat Pack. Surprisingly, I don't think they made any Frank Sinatra jokes. I don't know why not. It's right there, the title of the episode. But yeah, it was just pretty bland, in my opinion. You've got this young girl who, of course, is rebelling. She's trying to lash out by having parties, trying to fit in, blah, blah, blah. I liked a little bit of the connection that McGee managed to form with her because of the similarities that he saw between the two of them. But on the whole of it, it was just kind of, it started pretty bland with just a simple robbery, which I did find kind of hilarious, because the couple walks in and sees that the robber is still in there on their little camera thing. And instead of doing anything, they just sort of stand there and slowly turn to look at the closet. And I'm just like, or you could maybe go grab a weapon or something or prepare for this guy to jump out of the closet. But no, both of you turn and look at the closet, and then he easily runs out and shoves over the one guy, which it's also kind of funny thinking that this guy who owned the house, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be Army of some sort, or Navy of some sort. And so in my mind, it's kind of hilarious that this kid that we find out it was later just easily manhandled him and tossed him over the sofa and onto the table. Unless it's not him, it's his wife that was in the Navy. But I don't know, something's really funny about that idea of this Navy guy getting absolutely manhandled by a kid. It seems ridiculous to me. But outside of that, there were a couple of other scenes that felt weird to me. One in particular that really sticks out is the interrogation of the kid who snuck into the house at first, and then they find out he was trying to set up this party. That whole scene between him and then his mom coming in was really weird. Like, because the implication is that he's clamming up, he's not saying anything, and then his mom comes in and basically scares the shit out of him. And I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of funny. But that's not how it's acted. She comes in, she says his full name. I can't believe you did all this. Yes, ma'am. All right, I'll tell them. Yeah, so, we were just out there having fun. Like, he's super confident and cocky still, even though his mom is supposedly scaring the shit out of him. So, I don't know what the implication is exactly, but I certainly didn't get the sense of what they seemed to be implying was happening in the scene. With the way McGee and Jess were acting in the other room, it seemed like they found it funny because, again, the idea of the mom just coming in and scaring him and scaring the truth out of him, it is a funny idea, but that's not how the kid played it. So I don't know if the directing for him was bad or if he just could not get to that level of, yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. So we were just there for a party. That would have been a lot funnier instead of him just, yes, ma'am. All right, I'll tell you all about it. So we were there having a party, and it felt like he was still way too cocky for a guy who should be acting scared based on how the scene is set up. So pretty poor execution, in my opinion, for that. Also, the mom was just... It didn't feel very convincing. It didn't feel like she was coming in with actual rage pent up at her son for what he did. Although there was kind of a funny implication because, of course, she doesn't think that he would possibly be the one who started all of this. She thinks that, it's probably the other kids pressured him into this. And then she finds out that he actually is the one who had the idea to do this. In my mind, she stops herself. She goes, "Ooh, that," and then just walks out of the room. In my mind, in her head, she went, "That son of a bitch." Wait, what does that make me? I don't know. I don't know if that was the implied joke there, but I wish they had carried through with it if it was the implied joke. Because just, that son of a bitch. Never mind. It just walks out. That would have been really funny. But ultimately, it was just that. And she walks out, and that's not nearly as funny. So it's one of those, the joke in my head, I think, is a lot funnier than the joke that was presented to me. But yeah, after that, it kind of got a little bit more interesting with the bomb being planted at the one guy's house. I kind of figured it was going to be the Jaden guy because it just, when she showed his picture, I'm thinking, well, that's going to be important. She wouldn't just talk about, oh, I'm dating this other guy, show us a picture of him, and then we just never hear about him again. And I didn't know for sure, but I kind of had a sense, an inkling of, I wonder if that guy's even going to be real. The fact that she talks about dating this guy and she just has a picture of him, it kind of makes me wonder, is this like an online boyfriend? Because she seems to be very secluded, so doesn't seem like she knows a lot of people in person. So I didn't know for sure, but I definitely had an idea of what could possibly be with this Jaden guy. The fact that he's actually a catfisher and, convinced her to give him the code and all of that. Honestly, the ending of it was so, it felt tacked on almost, where it was like, oh, she's the one that possibly built the bomb and all of that stuff. I'm thinking, obviously she's not. And I kind of just lost focus to the point where I don't even remember why the guy who was catfishing her, I don't even remember why he did all of this. Like, I know he wanted to get her code. That's why he pretended to date her and all of that. But I don't even remember why he went after the one guy. If I'm being honest, the reasoning has now just completely left my mind because it was so uninteresting after a certain point. So yeah, it's definitely one of those episodes that it's a run-of-the-mill episode. I'm going to forget. I mean, again, I've already forgotten half of it, even though it's only been like maybe 15, 20 minutes since I've watched the episode. So it's disappointing to think that, yeah, we're getting close to the end of the season and we're having these episodes that are forgettable at best. So, but we'll see what happens in the final 2 episodes. I'll see you at the next one in just a minute. And now episode 20, All or Nothing. So this one, it was okay. Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about the whole Jimmy and Knight thing, but this did, I guess, take a step in the right direction for me. It did make me feel like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see them as a couple now. But I think the big thing for me is just, I had it in my head what type of episode this was going to be, and it completely subverted my expectations in a good way. Because in my mind, it was the team was going to be trying to solve this one case. Meanwhile, it was going to be goofy hijinks with Jimmy and Knight, and then this one doctor that just kind of inserted himself into the situation. I just, that's what I was thinking it was going to be. And it was already uncomfortable. It was already kind of cringy as far as the dialogue and the acting and all of that. So I was not really looking forward to it. And so when the switch happens, when they hit the spikes and then the doctor gets killed, that's when I was like, okay, so that's not what we're doing. Cool. And then that's when I realized it was probably all going to be connected to whatever case the team was working on. So I'm really glad that they didn't do that. And on top of that, it does actually make it pretty clever, because when the doctor said he was joining and Jimmy was like, wait, I didn't know that was part of the rules. That's kind of a clue, because the doctor was paid to make sure he was in the car with them so that way he could give the information. But of course, out of context, based on what we know at the beginning of the episode, it doesn't seem weird because Jimmy was already kind of doubting himself. He was already very nervous about the whole thing. So in my mind, it made a lot of sense that maybe he had just overlooked this rule where one of the doctors has to be in the car with the organ. So it didn't seem weird at the time. And then later when we find out he was actually paid to be there, that's when it kind of hits you that, oh, no, it's not a rule. He made it up so that way he could accompany them. I don't know. It's a very clever piece of writing that I'm not expecting from the writing team for NCIS this season, because they don't normally think that far ahead, it seems. Most of the time, the writing is kind of simplistic. And again, it's very formulaic. We kind of know everything going on if you watch any shows like this. So, this was a very well-written episode. I thought the scenes between Jimmy and Knight really did forge that bond. Yeah, I really do feel like, even though I'm still not entirely sure, we have seen a little bit more of them since the one episode where they first introduced the idea of them being a couple. We've seen a little bit more of them actually being connected. Apparently they were in the same grief counseling class. So there is more of a connection there than I thought originally. And this is kind of the episode that sort of cements that bond a bit more. It makes me realize, okay, so there is a connection there. This is not just hey, we got 2 single people, let's put them together. Which there have been a couple in the past in this show, and also currently they're still just random moments where it feels like, let's just put these two single people together and see what happens. Like there is a pretty decent bond there that I'm looking forward to seeing what they decide to do with it in the future. So yeah, all in all, very solid episode, very intense as well. I mean, I didn't think they were going to kill off either Jimmy or Jess, but there still was that feeling of, are they going to make it out okay? You know, especially after Jimmy got shot in the leg. Like, were they going to make it out without any, I guess, severe injuries? So yeah, pretty solid penultimate episode for the season. Obviously, I don't know what the final episode is going to include. I don't know if that Raven character is going to come back or not. I would assume so. It'd be weird if they just randomly brought up a character and then just never talked about him again for the rest of the season, but who knows? Maybe they really just don't know what they're doing. But with all that being said, on to the final episode for season 19. I'll see you there in a minute. And finally, episode 21, Birds of a Feather. Pretty solid ending. I mean, I'm kind of excited for next season, which typically NCIS does tend to have these nice cliffhanger moments that do make you want to watch the next season, which is kind of a good and bad thing, because on the one hand, it always ends in kind of an exciting note and you want to know more and you want to find out more. But at the same time, it does get old after a while whenever you have these cliffhanger endings that don't finish the story and leave me with so many questions that I want to find out the answer to. I mean, I'm excited. I want to find out. I want to see more. But at the same time, I'm also sitting here going, but why couldn't we finish this story this season? Why did we have to hold off until next season to finish it? So as far as, I mean, everything to do with the setup of this case, though, I mean, that's the good stuff. They do a very good job bringing Parker in, having him be the focus of this episode, being framed and all of that. I mean, it was a very, very good setup. And even just the sudden inclusion of the Raven, because it was one that I'm sitting there, I'm going, okay, so it looks like it's going to be more Parker focused. I guess we're just not going to talk about the Raven anymore. And then they get to the pet shop and see Nevermore. I'm thinking, oh, okay. All right, so it is connected to the Raven. That's cool. Nice little tie in there. But yeah, I think I kind of figured his ex-wife was probably involved somehow, because it just, first of all, it felt weird that she just had her car parked in the middle of nowhere. The fact that also she just somehow managed to get away without any sort of problem, it felt a little weird. It felt a little too coincidental, and I kind of felt like she was somehow involved. I wasn't sure if we were going to find that out this episode, though. So to see her get the text at the end, it's not too much of a surprise. It's more so a surprise that we found out this early. I figured they would save that as kind of a close to final reveal right before we find out who the Raven is. Because I didn't think she was going to be the Raven, but I figured she was probably working with whoever the Raven is. Now, as far as who the Raven is, don't know for sure. Don't really have any good options. I feel like if it was the FBI deputy director, that would just be too easy. I honestly don't even know if he's connected to the Raven. It just feels like it would be too simple if he were connected to the Raven. That's why he's gunning so hard after Parker. It makes more sense in my brain that he's pissed at Parker because of what he did with Gibbs and all of that. And so the Raven is basically feeding him information that is kind of turning him more and more into the mindset of, no, Parker's clearly dirty. He's corrupt. He needs to be taken down. So that's kind of where my mindset is. And I'm kind of wondering if after all of this, there's just going to be a nice cathartic moment of him going, all right, I was wrong, and just kind of embarrassingly walking out as Parker's just sitting there looking at him all cocky, like, yeah, you were wrong about me this whole time. How's that make you feel? So as far as who we know so far, I can't think of anybody that the Raven would be. So I'm not entirely sure where this is going to go next. Maybe we'll meet more people from Parker's past in the beginning of next season. Or maybe it's just going to be somebody who was tied to the FBI somehow. I'm not entirely sure. But it does feel like it's going to be somebody tied to Parker. Especially, I didn't even think about this connection, but the fact that Parker is a bird watcher, or at least he is currently, and this person is calling themselves the Raven, that does sort of make me feel like they're doing that on purpose. They're doing that because of their connection to Parker. So there's a lot of very interesting thoughts going around in my brain right now about what the truth of the whole matter is. I'm not even sure if the Raven, because the thing is, in my mind, the fact that they call themselves the Raven, the fact that Parker is into bird watching right now, it does feel like there's a connection there, but at the same time, they seem to imply that in the one episode where Jimmy and Casey were exposed to the toxin, and Parker managed to stop that from happening and stop the toxin from getting out, that's why the Raven is now going after him, because of the fact that Parker made that one attempt fail. I don't know if that's the case. If that is, then maybe it's just coincidence, but of course, as they say, there's no such thing as coincidence, rule number, whatever that is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure, and it's something that I hope the writing team has already figured out by this point. I'm hoping it's not something that they just set all this up without any sort of idea of how it was all going to come to an end, like this whole story. So fingers crossed, because sometimes it does feel like they have a really good setup with a payoff that doesn't really land and kind of leaves me feeling disappointed. So I just have to hope that next season comes back and they do a good job with it. But I think overall it does kind of bookend this season pretty well, because with Parker joining the team this season, he's kind of been growing more accustomed to being part of NCIS and being part of the team, being a leader that is similar to Gibbs but also very different. And I've liked how he has included himself in NCIS. So to see this story come to an end where he is now on the run and it's the team looking after him, because this is the first time he's really felt like part of the family. And it was a little too easy to make the joke at the end with McGee. He's like, are you sure you want to help a fugitive? We don't have fugitives. We got family. That's all I could think about in my head. But it does cement Parker as he's part of the team. He is part of their family now. They are willing to go to bat, put their necks, put their jobs on the line to protect him because they know he's innocent. And it's a really good coming together point for the team and for Parker as well. So I'm really glad that we had a good story for him. And there's still a whole lot of mystery surrounding him and his past. So even if they do show us more at the beginning of next season, I still feel like there's enough mystery surrounding Parker that you could still have a few more episodes where they reveal a little bit more about his past. Because he does seem to be a very interesting man, just as far as what type of life he's lived. So I'm really enjoying his character as a whole, and I'm glad we got a episode where he was the focus. But as far as season 19 as a whole, I mean, it was better than season 18, obviously, but it wasn't that hard to be better than season 18 because season 18 was just so frustrating with some of its stupid storylines and how nonsensical they were. So it's one of those, yeah, it's better. It was a better season overall, but I can't necessarily sit here and go, it's phenomenal. It's still kind of your typical NCIS season. You've got some good episodes mixed in there. You got some good emotions. You got some decent jokes thrown in throughout. It's a show that it can be entertaining at its best, and at its worst, it can be kind of frustrating. That's kind of it. There's nothing really deeper going on. The writing is not going to blow you away. The writing is not going to make you really think hard about stuff. There's a formula to it. You can kind of piece together the mysteries very early on in the episode, and the stories are kind of bare bones most of the time, where you got a few different things as far as why a person might have been killed, and most of the time your second guess, at least, I would say half the time your first guess about what the murder is actually going to be about is going to be true. Very rarely do they really pull something out of left field and go, oh, actually it was about this thing that you didn't think much of, but it was about that. And then sometimes they just pull the motive out of thin air. It's something we hadn't even mentioned before, and those are obviously the worst cases. But yeah, it's a fun show. It's one, as far as doing reviews, it can be kind of difficult to really talk too much about it, because unless they're doing something really, really good and emotional, or whether they're doing something really, really bad, most of the time I don't have much to say. But most importantly, I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. And if you are, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Lets me know that you guys are enjoying this. Also, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these final 3 episodes, as well as season 19 as a whole?
let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. But as for NCIS, that'll be it for now. I will be coming back to it at a later point, but now I'm going to be moving on to another CBS show, which is one that I've been really excited to get into, so look forward to that. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you all later. Peace out.